What's up, everybody? Welcome to Films in Black and White. My name is Doug.
What up? And I am Marcus, and I'm black, and he's white, like Tommy Lee Jones and Will Smith.
Yeah, little Men in Black action for you, just getting you started.
Yes.
Marcus, we've got a big show today.
It's huge. It's
Yeah,
so big, so
it's
big.
very big, and it's big for a couple of reasons
Mm-hmm.
that we'll get into later. First, this may be, and I don't want to give too much away.
Mm-hmm.
This is not a typical movie we review.
No,
So
no.
I want to leave
In,
it there.
in fact,
Just
hell no.
I want to leave it there because I just don't want to get too much into it. But
No,
yeah, we don't typically do this kind of episode, or we at least don't pick these kind of movies. And we'll explain what kind of movies we're talking about in a minute.
man.
We also have a guest, our first guest on the show,
We
which is super
do.
exciting.
Shout out to the
Yeah.
guests.
So Brian's in the waiting room. We're doing this via Zoom. He's going to join us here for a second. But before we invite our guest into our space, Marcus, how you holding up? What's new? What are you getting into?
Man, what is new? Who knows? Who the fuck knows? Yeah, I mean, like, I'm just like taking this thing day by day.
Yep.
Even goddamn corona is more racist shit happening, and it's just like, man, it's just hitting you from all sides, like fucking Mike
Yeah.
Tyson punches. But
Right.
I have good people around me to like
That's good.
debrief with, so that's
Good.
always good to kind of like talk and get it off your chest, like your thoughts, so they're
Sure.
just not rambling around in there. Getting back to being busy today, I had two meetings, one in
Yeah.
person, my first in-person meeting in months,
Yeah.
and I think it's pretty cool. I'm
That's
getting
good.
back into the swing of things.
Sure.
I'm intermitting, what is it?
Intermittent fasting.
Yes, yes, that I'm fasting.
Intergloves.
So I so I am not eating until noon, around noon, and eating
Yeah,
between
getting
noon and
after
8,
it.
and it is like
Yeah.
I'm good on the days I have to work. I was telling Doug, like, I'm great on the days I have to work.
Oh yeah.
But on those days where I wake up at 8 a.m. and I don't have to work, I'm sitting there looking at the clock like, why the fuck are you moving so slow?
Yeah.
So it's a little rough. But Doug, what about you? How's your week going?
It's going okay. I mean, kind of the same thing. Staying busy, doing what I gotta do.
Hmm.
Um, it's just been kind of a weird week. Definitely feeling the busyness. For those of you that don't know or maybe didn't hear, Marcus, his mom used to work with me. She was doing like room reservations, and this is the first full week of her being gone. So
Word, word.
just trying to balance all that stuff out. I dearly miss her, not just for helping me out with that, but in general, her energy. The muck definitely feels a little quieter as of
Yeah,
late.
yeah.
Other than that, I'm actually super jacked about some of the stuff that I've been like watching and
Okay.
reading lately too.
Oh, okay. Well, let's get right
So
into it. What have you
yeah,
been watching wait, Doug invited me over for dinner on Father's Day, right?
that's right. We did. Yeah, you came
Li-
over and joined me for
Listen,
dinner.
probably one of the best dinners I've ever had. When I say entertainment galore, love, the food was good. I felt
Yeah,
widely accepted in the
yeah,
Wagner household. So
that's what we
shouts
were
out to
going
Doug.
for.
That is exact. I don't know if you planned the
Yeah.
thing with like the kids and Harper and
That's just who
like.
they are as a person.
Oh,
That's
okay,
just who they
okay.
are as people.
Yeah, yeah.
But no,
So
that's what we wanted for. We were like,
there-
your family's gone. We wanted you to feel like you had a place to go that you could
yeah.
call home. So we're glad you felt at home. That's
It
what we
was
were going
good.
for.
No, it was great
Good,
all around. So I
good,
appreciate it. But Doug, what
awesome.
have you been reading and what have you been watching?
Okay, so I have been watching, and I told Marcus about this on Father's Day. I have been watching The Watchmen, the
Hmm.
HBO series,
Hmm.
and shit, it's really good. Like it's just really good. I really like it. It ties a lot of stuff back to the old comic, which I'm really on board for and here for. There's just nothing about that I don't like.
Okay.
It's been really great so far. So that's the big thing that I've been excited about this
Okay.
whole week is Brittany and I've been, and we've actually haven't been doing that thing where we binge something like in 3 days. We've actually
Yeah.
been spacing it out pretty good.
Okay.
So I watched that. I watched the first half of Shazam on my lunch break,
Oh, you haven't
which
seen it
I had
before?
no.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, so that was really good. I really liked what I
Wow.
saw thus far.
Okay.
So yeah, things are I, on an entertainment perspective, man, I'm
Looking
just
up.
chomping at the bit. So
Yeah,
things are good.
that sounds good.
How about
Um,
you? What have you been watching? What have you been getting into?
what have I been watching lately?
Mm-hmm.
Just, I think comic book wise, I haven't really gotten into anything.
Sure.
Um, just like movie wise, I really haven't gotten into anything besides this movie. I did have a hankering for some reason to watch Superman,
Yeah,
Christopher Reeve's original like
like
Superman 1 and 2.
OG.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Just because I don't know why. I just had a thing. I have
sure.
the full like DVD set collection here.
Nice,
And
nice.
so for me, it's like I really like that growing up. I grew up with
Yeah,
that movie as a child. So
that's
that's one
just
thing that I've been going. And reading wise, I read this comic the other day. It was like Hulk, but the thing about these Hulk comics is they span so long over.
yes.
The storyline can like last so long over the span of different
Yep,
artists and variations that I just get so like overwhelmed. So I ended
for
up just
sure.
reading like a Batman Beyond comic,
Sure.
like one of the newer ones, and that was pretty cool. It
Yeah,
was all right.
you can pick them up and lay them down just
Yeah,
about wherever. So
yeah,
yeah, I've had a strong desire to reread the Long Halloween, just kind of
oh
in
yeah,
preparation for the Batman that's coming.
for
But
sure,
I'll
for
probably
sure.
pick that up. I also this made me not to be on my Watchmen kick, but made me really want to reread that because I think there's pieces of it that I don't even remember, and it's so deep, and you can just really get into it. So
Yeah,
well, I
that was
think
great.
now's a great time for us to invite our guest in.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to invite Bryan into this. So Bryan was
Mm-hmm.
the inspiration for not really a debate, but a conversation we had a while back.
Mm-hmm.
And so we wanted to have him on the show. So we're going to invite Bryan in. And so we'll give him a chance to introduce himself, and then we'll get into it. So sound good?
Yeah, let's get
Uh,
to it.
All right. Bryan Roush.
Hey, Brian's here.
What's
Hello,
up?
that wonderful air horn was amazing. Thank you.
You're very welcome. That's
Welcome,
we
Brian.
want to make sure our guests get the top of the shelf treatment. So
Make you
that's
feel
what
Oh,
we were going for.
wow, that is wonderful. Thank you for having me. It is fun to be here.
Yeah, yeah.
Good, glad you're here. So we were just sort of breaking down how we've been doing. Just obviously, these are literally insane times that we live in. And we were
Yes.
breaking that down. We were breaking that down a little bit. Bryan, how you holding up? How you staying busy?
I'm staying busy. So I'm a father. I got 2 kids, so they keep me busy from like 7 to 7:30, and then I work somewhere in there. And then yeah, and I still find time. I'm trying to run, trying to like keep active
Okay,
and stuff
all
like
Mm-hmm.
right,
that.
that's
So
good.
yeah. Other than that, video games and movies when
Nice.
I can stay awake. So
Good.
Awesome. Yep, I feel you. That's how it goes. You gotta.
right on.
It's sometimes at the end of the day, there's just you turn something on and you're just out.
Yeah,
So
yep.
totally
Yeah,
get it. Totally get it.
yeah.
We Marcus and I were just sharing maybe things that this week we're either watching or reading. Any
Mm-hmm.
show you're watching, any book or comic or anything that you're reading as of late?
Yes. So with everything that is uncertain in these times, I wanted something that was like an emotional warm blanket. So I've been rewatching Community. Uh,
Nice. There it
and
is.
man, it is my second time rewatching it as an entire series, and it really like it. I'm in the middle of the second season, and it just the whole thing works so well. They finally hit their stride, and they're
Yep.
not just focusing on like, hey, here's Joe McHale and all these dingbats. It's like no,
Yep.
like there's actually this is a very talented
Yeah.
cast. So
Yeah.
that has been that's been my go-to. And then I'm also trying to read the new Star Wars book, Shadowfall. It's in the vein of Rogue Squadron, so
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
trying
Those are
to.
you've
great
always been
options.
that. Yeah, they
Thanks.
are.
Yeah.
And you've always been that person that can actually read the Star Wars novels. And I don't mean that as like a, oh, look at
Okay.
Bryan. I've just never been able to do it. Like I pick them up and I'm like, I don't even know who half these people are.
Mhm,
There's
mhm.
just so many of
Yeah.
them. I don't know where to start.
I
So
mean,
kudos to you, man.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I don't know. It's something I've just been able to roll with, and only in the past 5 years I've been able to look back and be like, "Ooh, that's bad. Like that's just straight up bad. Like, why did I read this in
Yeah.
my free time? Like, and it's a lot
Yeah.
of books, not just Star Wars, but yeah, that could
Okay.
be a whole other podcast. But that's how I'm
Yeah.
trying to keep busy, enjoyable activities,
Yeah.
That's good.
That's all that really matters, honestly. As long as you like it, doesn't really matter what anybody else.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
Yeah.
same.
That's kind of how we live our life here on Films in Black and White is
That's the only
if
way
you
we
like
know
it, we don't we don't care.
We don't.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just how it is.
Oh,
All right.
So let's get into our first segment, which would be our top 2 news stories from the week. Bryan, you are our guest, so you get to go first. Any particular news story in either Hollywood or just fandom in general that's worth noting or talking about?
Give it to him, Bryan.
Oh, well, I appreciate it. And it's nice to see you and meet you, Marcus. I've listened to the podcast, but it's like nice to be here and see you and all this stuff. So
Same here.
oh yeah. So so I used to write for a video game website back in the day, so I kind of went in that route. And the thing that I thought that would connect well is, so if you're familiar with the game Fortnite, they are going to show 3 Christopher Nolan movies inside the video game Fortnite.
Okay.
Yeah, and I had the same reaction. I was like, I don't understand this. I don't play Fortnite. But so this Friday, June 26th, they have an entire like game area that's not like a battle arena. And you can just sit there and watch Christopher Nolan movies as Christopher Nolan intended. I'm absolutely sure of that.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as Inception is concerned,
this is it.
This is like the ultimate form of
This is
like
it.
it's really no better way to enjoy Christopher Nolan's Inception than inside your avatar's head.
You're bound to see Leonardo just running around somewhere creating windows and walls. Just I don't know.
Yeah, and like I'm all for like innovation. I don't know who this is for, because like I feel like if you're into Christopher Nolan movies, like you're watching it like I have the correct projection things, and I have my TV these settings and a sound bar, like at the very least, right?
Bryan, that's hilarious, because that's exactly how I imagine people who love Christopher Nolan. So honestly, we're already best friends, because that's pretty nuts. That was my exact mockery of Christopher Nolan fans.
That's awesome.
So yeah, they're the last of the news, but here they're doing Inception, Batman Begins, and The Prestige, and so this is all lead up to Tenet, right?
Right.
So that's my news piece. I think it's weird, and obviously it's for some people, but so that's happening on Friday.
Wow.
Okay. Great. I don't know. Again, I don't know.
It's kind of like putting it's like putting something in my hands, and it's like, hey, here you go, and I'm like, okay, but what do you want me to do with this now?
Right.
Am I just supposed to hold this? Okay, great. That's fantastic.
It's like those off-brand. You ever go to a Walgreens and it's not G.I. Joe, but it's like Lieutenant Hank and his buddies? Like, that's really what this is.
Hank.
So they've given me something that I know how to play with, just not in a format that looks like anything that I'm comfortable with. So.
Yeah. Well, and like I'm just thinking of like this Fortnite is aimed at like a lot of like a younger audience, so it's like this is going to be their first experience with like Inception of like, oh yeah, I saw that in Fortnite, and that's just weird to me. Like I
remember seeing that in theaters.
I don't want to have that conversation with anybody. It's like with a younger person, like, when did you see Inception? Like in Fortnite, when did you see it? In the movie theater, I guess. But
I don't know.
Like, and these aren't movies that are like, Transformers, where you can put it on the background and like you can catch up with it. Like The Prestige,
you have to pay attention.
You gotta like, otherwise you're like, David Bowie's here, I guess, and putting light bulbs in the ground. All right, like. I don't know. I don't know who it's for, but I find it fascinating.
That's fantastic.
Okay. All right, we'll go with it.
What a great way to start us off.
That's a great way to start this. That's the best way to start this. That's awesome. Marcus, what's your news? What do you got?
Okay, so as we all know, earlier this week, we got some news came out that was kind of shocked everybody. Have no idea what this means. A lot of the times DC drops news and we don't know what this means. So Michael Keaton has been casted as Batman, or recasted as Batman again, one of the OG Batmans, but not this time, for Flashpoint. So
all right,
it's Ezra Miller and Michael Keaton, and in that news they're saying that he will play a Nick Fury mentor type role, and over the span of several movies. So
all right.
Do with that, because earlier this week we heard that Jeffrey Dean Morgan was going to play Thomas Wayne's Batman, like Flashpoint version of Batman as well.
Shit, really? Okay.
So this means essentially, if this is true, we're going to be having 2 Batmans on the screen at once. So I don't know how they're going to do this because the setting, I see you could set up Batman Beyond with Michael Keaton.
Yep. That'd be cool. I'm down for that.
It's about time, to be honest. Like, give Michael Keaton his roses while he's here. One of the better Batmans that we've had.
Yes, agreed.
Yes.
Agreed.
So
yeah,
that's that.
Yeah, that's
Oh, man.
interesting.
I'm so happy you brought that up because when I saw that on Twitter, I was like, there's no way. And then everybody picked it up and it's pretty much all but confirmed. And I'm on board with it because I think if Keaton's willing to come back after he pretty much like criticized himself with Birdman.
No kidding.
Like, I think obviously money's involved, but like,
right.
I think that could be a really cool way to thread a lot of things together. And it seems like DC's taking this approach of just like, I don't know, who cares if it's in the same universe? It's cool, isn't it? And you're like, yeah, it is.
Right.
That's, you know what? That's fine. I don't need it all to be connected. Like,
Right.
that's cool.
They're definitely doing the like, Marvel's making that show on Disney Plus, What If? And I think DC's just living their life like, I don't know, fuck it. Like, what if Michael Keaton came back? And somebody's like, son of a bitch, I love it. Like, I'm on board. You had me at Michael.
DC's direction room is just them with a bunch of darts and they just throw that shit right at the window. Like, and it's like, yep, that's it. You said Juggernaut and that's not even the same thing. What is that?
Yeah, we don't care. We'll do a crossover.
So,
man.
So with that, I wanted to ask a question to you both because I don't have 2. I have just one piece of news. But with this, I wanted to ask the question. This has started a lot of debate on who the best Batman is.
Okay, all right.
So I want to know from Bryan and Doug, who is the best Batman? But here's the thing: since Christian Bale. We're not going to go with the OGs, Val Kilmer, George Clooney, and Michael, because that's too easy. We already know who the better Batman in that group is.
Right.
I want to know who is the best Batman since Christian Bale.
Oh, that's tough. That is. I mean, go ahead, Doug.
No, Brian, you're a guest. You go first.
Well, I mean, we're talking about, so if we're starting with Christian Bale, it's Christian Bale and then Ben Affleck.
Yeah.
Robert Pattinson, maybe he's not, like, he hasn't done anything.
Yeah, he can be included.
I mean, so I'm going to say something that other people think is blasphemous. I think Christian Bale has its place, but it is so into his own thing that I enjoyed the Ben Affleck Batman. I don't know. Like, I think it works except for like 2 lines in Justice League where it's like, I don't know what happened here, but I get you just needed to get this movie out.
I could tell you what happened.
But Brian, you're not going to like it when he says it.
It's 2 words. It's fuck Josh Whedon. That's what it is.
Oh, man. We're gonna have a good time. I don't even know, man. Like, but the core concept of how they did Batman, like, I like a more older, grizzled Batman, and just like he's sad because like somebody like that is gonna be sad and not just like I'm Batman and I'm emotionless. It's like, nah, my life sucks. I live in a cave.
Right.
I fight crime and I'm old and my bones are broken. And like, if you go by the DC, like the Batman versus Superman continuity, it's like Robin's dead, I guess. Like, I don't really know. Yeah. I dig that. I dig that pained Batman because I feel like that is something that isn't always talked about, and I feel like that's something really compelling with his character. Yeah. Is it the best? I will say with those 3, I'll say it's the best at the moment. Yes.
Okay. I think it's funny that Batman's arch nemesis is not the Joker, but just severe depression.
It's just time. Yep.
It's very sad, and somebody should honestly check on him.
They ran out of Prozac in Gotham.
I mean,
out. And he's just going to fuck off on. Actually, Batman's the villain because he's just taking his anger out on everybody else. And it was like, we got to stop this fucker. We don't know what he's gonna do next.
That's yeah.
He punched
that's the problem.
Me and pills fell out. I don't know what's going on. It's like, there's a lot of Oxycontin here.
He's rattling around like a goddamn baby, and we don't know what's happening. Just a bunch of pills in his pocket.
Yeah, that would explain actually a lot. So I mean,
yeah. Every time he shows up to a crime, it's just a big sigh, like, ugh. All right.
I mean, think about how Justice League opened. He's chasing an alien, and he's just like,
Jesus.
Yeah.
um,
So Doug, what do you think?
yeah, please, Doug.
To be honest with you, out of the two of them, I mean, I think that Christian Bale has his place. I think that if you look at like Batman, Bruce Wayne, I think that Christian Bale played a better. I like him more as like a Bruce Wayne. He definitely flaunted his money a lot and was definitely the type of person that was like, look at all this shit I have. But I think I agree with Brian, to be honest with you. I think that there's a lot to be said for how Ben Affleck played it. I think it's really hard to not look at that like training sequence where he was preparing for the fight with Superman, where he was trying to think about every contingency, that I thought was really, really cool. I think the interesting thing that's the common thread between them is that neither one of them really showcased the great detective aspect of them. So that's the thing I think is the most interesting. I mean, they both did their research and they typed on their computers, but they really didn't do a whole lot of X leads me to Y, which leads me to Z, and now everything's together. They definitely kind of skipped over a couple letters when connecting everything. But I like Ben Affleck's Batman, to be honest with you, better. Not better, I just think that he played Batman better.
I agree. I'll agree with that. I agree with both.
Cool.
I think Affleck was slept on. I think we also didn't appreciate him until we realized that his reign was over, and then we actually got to look back and be like, oh, it's not that bad. It, you're like, Ben Affleck playing Batman, but like, I think it was underappreciated. So I definitely Affleck.
Because I got to be honest with you, a Ben Affleck, Joe Manganiello as Deathstroke.
Yep.
That's a fight I want to see.
Yes.
That's an actual like the way their age, how they're paired up. That's absolutely a fight I want to see. Yep. So, cool. The news I have is actually a little bit of a bummer. So I don't mean to bring this really exciting party down, but it was released today, and I don't know how much of this has been news before, but there was an article in The Atlantic today about Bryan Singer. And apparently Bryan Singer is a piece of shit. Like, apparently it's just a piece of shit human being. And for the past 20 years has just racked up rumors and allegations of sexual misconduct, which I'm going to go ahead and assume are true. So it's just, it just kind of, I read a little bit of it, and it was just kind of one of those things. Yeah, boo Bryan Singer. It just kind of, it was just a real bummer and sort of a real letdown, because you don't really ever hear about him. You hear about, I mean, I don't want to get Brian too started on X-Men The Last Stand at all, but I mean, he did all of those. I mean, he did Rocket Man. He's done a lot of good movies, and so I think he kind of swept under. I think someone said that for movie studios, he's made $8 billion over the course of his time. So I'm not surprised, because that's typically been the way fandom and stardom has worked for these type of folks. So, but yeah, that's what we got.
Seriously,
so
we as men just have to get our shit together. I don't know.
Right.
Let's hold each other accountable more. I don't know what it is we got to do, but this is ridiculous. It's disgusting. It's ridiculous, and we shouldn't keep hearing stories like this.
Yeah, no, it's massively depressing.
Well, and it's I'm trying to find the source of it. So I know that the Atlantic piece was in 2019, and I think there was someone on Twitter today that was just like, that's right, I'm going for it, and these are my interactions with Bryan Singer, and there are plenty of websites you can track that down if you're listening. And basically the Atlantic piece, I remember reading it when it came out, and there's a lot of assault there, and it's multiple people talking about it, and it's all of the studios basically like wring their hands of like, oh, this guy makes us a lot of money, but they're bad things. I don't know what to do. And I think he was kicked off of Red Sonja, if you're familiar with that comic story book. I think he was going to do it, and people were like, wait a minute. He's what? And Red Sonja is a pretty intense story if you're not familiar with it, but very good. But not Bryan Singer isn't the person you want to be maybe telling that story at this
exactly
moment.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. That's really all the news that I have. I mean, there's a couple of other things that are kind of exciting. We saw a trailer for The King's Man came out over the course of the past week, which looks really good. So, but yeah, I think that was good. Good news segment. Yeah. What do you got?
Take the time to say rest in peace to Joel Schumacher.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Although his Batman may have not been appreciated, we do want to say he did give us a lot of great movies like Bad Boys, Batman, and a whole plethora of other movies. So I do want to say rest in peace to Joel Schumacher.
Yep. That's right. I completely forgot that he passed.
Yeah.
I completely forgot. So yeah, no, please.
Good
Rest
call
in
out.
peace for sure. Yep.
Thank you.
Cool. So Brian, when you and I talked yesterday about what the general shtick would be, I mentioned our weekly segment of Catch That Quotable, previously known as Stump the Chumps, which we don't like to talk about.
Stop saying
that. I can't stop saying it. I just
let it go.
Okay. Stop trying to make Stump the Chumps a thing, I guess is what I'm hearing. Anyway, so Brian, I asked you, I said, we want you to try to stump Marcus and I on your quote. So,
All right.
Do you have your movie quote handy?
Oh, I do.
Okay, good. I'm genuinely excited.
You know what? I'm liking Brian. He gives me the vibes of
I have no idea how this is going to go over, but I hope you all enjoy it.
Brian, I hope that you're not hoping we're going to get it because our track record is dog shit. Like
I've listened to a few, and y'all just, it's cool though. It's hard. There's a lot of movies. I get it.
Thank you for stroking our ego. Thank you, Brian.
Yeah, thanks. You're right. There are a lot of movies.
Like
now I don't feel bad.
Me and Doug shadow boxing. Like instead of actually shadow boxing, we're in a corner and just beating each other up. So like it's just whatever. It's a whole thing.
It's like those boxing movies, like those cartoons in boxing where we both punch each other in the face and fall.
And knock each other out. Yep. That's exactly what it is.
That's exactly what it is. So Brian,
All
go ahead and read your quote. We'll see if we get it.
My quote. My quote is, start quote, bio digital jazz, man. End quote.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Bio digital jazz.
Okay. All right, read it one more time, Brian, and I'm gonna start.
Yeah, and I can do it with the same inflection. But the character says bio digital jazz, man.
Oh, Jesus. Oh.
You know what I want to say, Doug? I want to say it's something from Community, because that's what Brian said he's been watching.
I know that, but that might have been a red herring.
Could have been.
Bio digital jazz,
man. Don't forget the man.
I know. Okay.
Jazz, man. Sounds like some hippie stuff. Like he's talking to somebody who's been smoking. Bio digital jazz.
Ooh.
Man. It's the inflation that's getting me. All right,
yeah, it's what's getting me too.
Your name's first on the black and white flyer, so you first.
Oh, it's I'm gonna go. Thank you for that. We can fix it. We can fix that going forward.
Just like that out, Marcus. That was clever. That was nice.
You know.
Yeah, that was. Yeah. Don't tell us what it is until after Marcus guesses.
Sounds good.
But I'm gonna go out there on a limb, and I'm gonna say it's from Ender's Game.
It is not. You're on the right track, though.
That's what I thought. I said Brian is into like sci-fi movies that are like deep fakes, like ones that are like classic novels that are really. So I was like, he probably watched that. And to be fair, I haven't seen it, so
that's okay. That's all right.
Movie. That's a really good movie too.
Yeah.
Oof. If you said that was the right path, that threw off my whole guess.
Oh no.
He was just being nice.
Because I was just. Listen, okay, I'm just going to say, bio digital jazz, man.
You reading it is actually now. You just reciting it's my favorite part.
Because I don't know. I know it's somebody. Here's what I envision, right? Before I get in. I envision this is somebody who it's the scientific world, sci-fi world, and this person sits behind the desk and is kind of the go-to person when it comes to like who knows they know it, and it's like, how do you do this? It's like bio digital jazz, but I cannot put together the movie.
My God. You are gonna scream when I tell you. Do your guess. Okay. Do your guess.
I'm just gonna say the wrong thing. I want to say Jurassic Park.
It is not.
Okay.
It is Jeff Bridges in Tron Legacy.
God damn it!
he says biodigital jazz man when he is in the computer and how he talks about computers. So you were right there, Marcus.
Oh my God, I could feel it.
Right?
Oh, that's a good movie too, though. That's a
Oh,
great.
Yes.
It's one of my favorites. And I thought I'd bring that energy. That's
That
like
was
my
good.
energy of just like a hippie Jeff Bridges in a computer. I'm like, yeah, man.
Yeah,
is
that's
it
a very
cars?
dude way to word a statement. That's a very like, hey,
Yeah.
I got a beverage, man. Jesus.
It is a very
Okay.
Jeff Bridges. It is a very Jeff
Yeah.
Bridges way to say that. That was great.
Yeah.
That was great.
Oh, well, I'm glad you liked it. Like Doug told me, I'm like, well, I'm gonna get weird because I don't know, who knows. So
To be honest, you could just have quoted Disney movies and we wouldn't have gotten it anyway.
Honestly, Brian, you could have pulled a quote out of your ass, a random quote, and made it up, and we would have guessed like, "Wow, is this like is this Sinatra or Shakespeare?" Like, no, I just made that up today.
Oh man.
you know
what that's from? That's from To Kill a Mockingbird. That's what that's from.
what that
It's
is.
like,
Yeah.
Nope, not at all.
I said that to my kids today. Like, oh,
Yeah.
all right. Yeah.
Okay.
the theater. But yeah, I thought I'd bring. I mean, we were doing a Disney thing. I figured I'd do a weird Disney sci-fi movie to like try to keep in theme. So don't worry, that's on YouTube. It's a 4-second clip. You can just keep rewatching it. Jeff Bridges at his best.
At his best. Oh, if that's his
All right.
best.
Oh, that's an excellent segue though into what we watched this week. And
Oh, yes.
I say it with a little bit of remorse because as everyone knows, listeners and obviously the two of you, this week we watched Artemis Fowl.
Yes.
And
it was foul.
And it was bad. And that's what I was saying to earlier when I said this is not a movie we typically do. When Marcus and I were talking about it, it's like we knew it was bad because the Rotten Tomatoes reviews at one point were like 1%. So we knew it was bad. But yeah, so let's get into it. So let's get into Artemis Fowl. So Brian, we always let Marcus kind of give us the barbershop synopsis of how this movie goes. So Marcus, take us away. Give us the synopsis.
Okay, so here's what happened. You got this kid, right? A little dorky kid. He's a little bit of a know-it-all, and for some reason Colin Farrell's in this movie too with a terrible Irish accent. You get these two, and he's telling his son, instead of like how to get a 401k or how to balance a checkbook or how to make money in the stock market, he's telling this kid about fairy tales for some damn reason. So we don't know why, but that's what he's doing. He's telling kid about fairy tales. There's this big thing where his pop goes missing. All right, riding in a helicopter, all of a sudden his pop goes missing. The news media is outside. They really felt the point to stress the fact that the news media was outside his house. I don't know why, but it was. There's this big black guy with blue eyes and blonde hair. Don't know why he's there. Never explained the blue eyes. We don't know what the hell's going on. Instead of being a good uncle, he brings in his little niece to come and help for some odd reason, who didn't help the entire movie. She didn't do shit the entire movie. But basically, it's just surrounding this kid trying to get his dad back. And in this, he's uncovering an entire world that he thought only existed in fairy tale books and in his dad's retelling of fairy tale books. So, and in this, we get a great adventure of kind of an Avatar-ish, in-game-ish type thing that happens where there happens to be fairies and trolls.
Yeah, that's a pretty good synopsis, a pretty good breakdown of how this movie is. Yeah, I mean the plot points for this movie, first off, I have one really important question. How many days do you think this movie took place over?
That's a great question.
Because it felt like it was 6 weeks that they crammed into like, at one point in time in my notes, who said it? I gotta look this up, hold on. Who said it? Somebody said, like, oh man, it's been a long day. I said, it's been one fucking day? I had another note that said 1 day is worth 48 hours in this movie.
It was. They tried to.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Brian. Actually, I want to hear from Brian. Go ahead, Brian.
Well, no, you're right because there is no sense of time at all in this movie because I'm not even gonna do a breakdown, but like he comes home from school and then he's like, Dad, you're home, and then his dad leaves, and then. He He does. Like, they show 2 establishing shots of like, oh, this beautiful house. Oh, this idyllic childhood. And then he's like, son, I gotta go. And it's like, I don't know what accent that is, Colin Farrell, but he goes. And he's like, oh, my dad's gone again. And so the point I'm trying to make is like, they do all this and then they switch to the fairy world. So you don't have any idea, but it's like the good morning meeting for the fairy police force. And then there's a fairy that goes and takes care of patrol, but it's clearly night. But then they flip back. So like, there's just no weeks, days. Who knows?
Right.
Nobody wears a single watch in this goddamn movie.
No, they just bip and bop all over the world. Yeah, it's madness.
But you can't give me the BS. Sorry, Brian. I have a little bit of a potty mouth, but
you're fine. I love it.
You can't give me the bullshit excuse of there's this time relic and we're going to put it over the house. Like, come on now. Don't try to find a cop out of like, oh, time stopped. I get it. And one of the things that pissed me off no, I don't. Nobody gets it. Right. One of the things that pissed me off was once the time ended, this fairy thought, I hate to rush to, like, this was in my notes. Once time ended, right? And she wanted to go save the person, the human being. They were like, no, don't go save that human. He was flying off of a boat when this started. Instead of maybe sitting him on land, she sits him back on the boat that's about to crash. I'm like, if anything, you just killed him. You just murdered this poor man.
Look, motherfucker, captain goes down with his ship. You stay there. You know where this is going.
I'm so glad you brought this up. And for people that watch the movie, you know exactly what we're talking about. They stop time. And like the first thing I thought of when I saw it, I was like, that man on the boat, the way they stop time, his boat will crash into this. There's no water, and he's going straight to the ground, and he's dead if they don't do something.
Right.
So, like, I was surprised that the fairies were like, no, I'm doing this. And I'm like, isn't it like baseline as like a protector of your society that you should like just automatically do that? Oh, that's like a special thing. Okay. And then put him back on the boat. And I'm like, I don't know if they just like, we forgot about this fisherman, just put him back on the boat, like in post.
Put him on the boat.
Or like someone was just like, yeah, it's fine, whatever. Like, let's move on to the next scene in editing. Like, it just,
And nobody showed if he survived. It would have been great if you would have showed like, like he was like, yeah, I'm great. But they just like was like, all right, well, cool. I guess he's dead.
Good luck.
Godspeed to you, sir. Oh, well, I mean, I think most people figured out how we felt about this movie, but before we get too far down the rabbit hole of all the things wrong with it, let's kind of go through and just give a little bit of background on the movie itself. So obviously it was originally intended to come out in theaters. Smart move, Disney, because it would have been awful.
Actually, smart move, Corona.
Right, the Rona moved
virus happened.
Yep. So the Rona moved it back, moved it to Disney Plus. So it's available on Disney Plus if you choose to watch it, which we'll get to that in a minute. The interesting thing that I find so fascinating is that there are big names tied to this movie in its director and in 2 of the actors. I mean, as much as Colin Farrell's accent was unplaceable, he's a big name and he has some acting chops. Dame Judi Dench is in this. Josh Gad is in this. And what surprises me most is the director. So the director is Kenneth Branagh. And for those who know Kenneth Branagh got his particular acting career doing Shakespeare, both on the stage, I believe in London, and then in addition did a bunch of movies back in the late 90s when everybody was like digging on making a movie rendition of Hamlet. So I mean, he's got some acting chops, and what I thought was cool is it's not like he doesn't have the ability to create worlds. He directed Thor. Like, he can create a world and create a story and use the medium to convince people of what's going on. It's just something about this was particularly off. So yeah, I think it was originally intended to go that route, directed by Kenneth Branagh. Those big actors attached to it. It's kind of surprising, to be honest with you, that it turned out the way it did. Thoughts? Anything I'm missing about particular backstory on this at all?
I mean, for me, I had to know more about this movie. I have an obsession with these types of movies, and
Yeah.
the budget was 100 million to start, and I think it got up to 125 with reshoots.
Wait, they
and-
reshot something?
Oh, yeah, right. Who knew? And you look at, the only other thing I'll add is you look at the 2 trailers they released, and none of the footage in the first trailer is in the movie. Like, absolutely none. Like, they did the teaser trailer in 2018. It was like coming August 2019. So it was coming out in August. They already knew it was not going to be great. And then it got pushed back, and then it's on a streaming service. So I mean, like they knew. I feel like they knew early on. They're like, oh,
Yeah, they must have had the writing on the wall on that one. Yeah, so this was a weird. Yeah, I mean, it's just a weird way to do it. So I mean, yeah, I mean, 150 million. I mean, there's no way you're making that back. There's no way you're making that back.
Although
via the streaming service.
Disney Plus stopped their crack method of streaming. They stopped giving out free subscriptions. So whoever watched the movie by now has like official subscriptions, and whoever wanted to watch this movie actually has to pay the subscription price at least for a month to watch Artemis Fowl.
Yep.
Right. So I mean, I suppose you might get a couple extras, but I don't know if anybody.
You're not recouping
if Disney was to do a survey of like, why'd you join Disney Plus? There's gonna be maybe like 6 people that were like,
Artemis Fowl.
I'm really into Irish folklore, so Artemis Fowl, believe it or not, that's why I did it. So, so let's do the easy one first. What part of this movie worked? Like, let's start off on the right foot. Try to give it its credit where credit is due. But what parts of this movie do you all think worked?
For me, I think, as much as we're going to give him hell, Colin Farrell. I think he was like the best. I think he was probably the best part of this movie. Yeah. Only because him playing this role of this protective, supportive dad, I enjoyed that. Also, I told Doug that this kind of gave me a little bit of a feeling into maybe what we're getting for Penguin for the new Batman movie. Yeah. And so that I've always liked Colin. I liked him when, this will tell you a lot, I liked him when he was Bullseye in the original Daredevil.
Yes.
So for me, it was like, I liked him in this role. I think that the storyline is a good story. I think Artemis Fowl is a good story. I just think that the execution and maybe the actors in it maybe downplays the plot and the story. Because I like the idea of leprechauns being, it was like LEPR recon or LEP recon. And I was like, that's cool. That's a great, whatever. So the storyline, Colin Farrell. And I will also say the maybe the magic in it. Like the reality and the magic of how they do this, why they do this. They're doing this thing, although they briefly skim over it. They really explain, the title thing is happening because they're creating a time vortex. The bullshit 20-second excuse you gave me was ass, but I will take the science behind it and trying to make it into reality.
Sure, okay. Yeah, we'll take that. Yeah. No, completely agree. Completely agree with you. I think the world they created, they definitely did a good job creating the world. I think Colin Farrell acted the hell out of it. So, I completely agree. Brian, things maybe about this that you thought worked?
I mean, so for me, my sense for movies and stuff like that, so I'm dyslexic, so I have a ton of focus on visuals. Like, that is just how I understand the world. So, like, when a movie has really good visuals, I can really connect with it. Because sometimes it's just really hard for me to parse out the dialogue. Because that's how it manifests for me. And so seeing it, I was like, okay, like, show me this like sprawling fairy world. And it Sanctuary looked awesome. Like, it didn't, it didn't look like a redux of Asgard or anything like that. Like, it was very clearly its own like weird fairy punk, if that's a thing.
That's true.
Like steampunk. Like, it was very like fairy punk. Like, no, this is a lived in like like they have their own patterns and like sets of having things. Like, I could tell that was well thought out, which I appreciated. Even like the recon uniforms, like how it was like fletching, so like old school, but obviously trying to evoke a futuristic like advanced technology thing. Absolutely. That was rad. And I can tell there was a lot of thought put into that, and I appreciate that. And yeah, so like also a lot of like the character and creature designs, like those goblins looked
those were sweet,
very believable, very
Oh,
menacing.
yeah.
And it wasn't. I'm pretty sure those were prosthetics. I don't think that was CG. And if it was CG,
I don't think it was.
You got me. Which
Right.
congrats.
Yeah.
And so I thought all of those looks they nailed. Like I very much believed that okay, yeah, you have this fairy world. It's underneath Earth. Great. Like let's go.
Yep.
So I liked that about this movie.
Yep. What I appreciated in addition to the character development is that they did a good job. What I thought was cool is that in someone's head when they were producing these characters and when they were creating them, they gave them almost like a Dungeons and Dragons sheet of like this person can do X, this person can do Y, this person hates X, this person hates Y. They created all of that. I just think that they fell short in the exposition of it. Like what I thought, to your credit, the goblin scene where they've got Mo Diggums or whatever the fuck his name is, like in the jail.
Mulch?
Oh, is it Mulch? I didn't know.
Josh Gad's character?
And it's not Mo Diggums.
I don't know. Mo Diggums might need to be what we go with here, because which, by the way, we're going to talk about Josh Gad and Dirt, but
please,
please.
Sorry, Doug, please continue about Mo Diggums.
I'm going to create an alter ego named Mo Diggums.
And all he does is dig dirt, and he wants to dig it Mo, which is crazy.
Right.
That's it.
Anyway, but I thought was really cool is like in the jail cell with Josh Gad, when they established that goblins could just create fire, I was like, oh shit, like that's really, really cool.
Yes.
But I thought that was an opportunity for exposition into the world that Colin Farrell taught Artemis. I thought that was an opportunity to say like, all right, now pause. Like Josh Gad in his exposition could have said, now Artemis learned all of these different traits from his dad, and it's just a chance for, again, that bonding, what I thought was really cool of the dad and the son bonding together, of walking through the reds. It's like, okay, what can goblins do? Well, they can create fire. Okay, how do we combat that? Like you could have done more of that, and I probably would have been able to at least get into that world a little bit more. But both of what you said of the world creation, and to be honest with you, as insane as Judi Dench's accent was,
oh my god,
she fucking went 100% on this.
I mean,
she was like in it, like she committed 100%. So again, to her credit, she acted really, really well in this. So
man, heck of a 12 months for her. She got Cats and Artemis Fowl. Lucky her.
She hit the double snake eyes on that one.
I'm sure she read these scripts and was like, yeah, this is it. This is the game. I mean, while we're at home, like, no, this was not it.
This was
one of the things I did want to point out before we move on. It was that I appreciated was it wasn't a movie where I haven't read the book, so let me say that, right? But one of the things that I appreciated was that the dad did not die. That was not the fuel for the movie. Was the dad dying and the son having to do it on his own. I like the fact that you had, no, I survive, and I'm with my son and his team that he created. Now let's do it together. I'm hoping if they do a sequel, they'll lean on that a lot more and not have the dad die in order to accomplish this storyline.
Yep, completely agree. Agree. I thought that was absolutely awesome and absolutely fantastic in how that worked. And I think to your credit and kind of what I was getting at is that this book series is like 8 books. So there's tons of source material that they can pull from. So, I mean, I think there's enough there that maybe it could be restarted and someone could give it another crack. But I think there's a lot more information to be conveyed. So,
all right. Well, let's switch on over to what didn't work. Now that we covered the very short duration of what did work, let's kind of switch our attention to what didn't work. And this movie had a lot that just, I think, was a misstep just across the board. But Brian, I know from just text conversations with you, you have one particular piece of this movie that didn't work. So I really want to hear you as our guest what your thoughts are and what didn't.
I mean, it is so hard. It's really okay. So Josh Gad, a someone that has been on Broadway, is known as Olaf. He's also in Beauty and the Beast. Like, he has a very storied career, if you're not familiar with him. And he is the person in black and white. He's Mulch or Mo Diggers or whatever to Doug, narrating the story, which So there's a part in this movie where we're not going chronologically, so I'm just going to jump in. So basically, there's a siege, there's a hostage situation, and Mulch is a criminal in the fairy world, and he's a dwarf, and he can dig tunnels really well. And you only kind of hear about this through the movie, through like little bits of dialogue. And they're like, Mulch will take off 50 years of your sentence if you can get us in that house, because we're the fairies and we need to get in there to get one of our own back. And I'm like, okay, so like he's gonna use magic, or they're gonna CG like, I don't know, some orbs, who knows? And then he dislodges his jaw, and it's CG, but it is like body horror. Like I was not prepared.
Horrifying scene in this movie.
Like this is a PG movie, and I was very uncomfortable. Like I was just like, okay, all right. So again, and then he says it's feeding time, and he just starts eating the ground. And you hear all of like the ADR, like Josh Gad was probably in the booth going num 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 dirt. You know, obviously he's an actor. He knows how to do that part.
No, he did it just like that.
Yeah, right. And so all of these things, he's CG. You have this extra audio and all this dirt flying up, and I'm just like, okay, so he's like digging it. No, he's eating it, and then there's a shot from behind, and his pants fall down, and then just dirt comes from his butt to imply that he is now having dirt come out of his butt as he's eating it. And at this point in time, I thought two things. One, Doug, what am I watching? And then two, like, what person looked at this and was like, you know what? Yeah, we need Josh Gad to have dirt out of his butt. That's gonna really solidify this movie's issues, and it's gonna clean up a lot of stuff. Now,
kids think poop is funny. Make it come out the butt.
Yes.
And like, so I talked to people, like, because I was like, this is weird. Like, I just need to process this. And someone who had read the book's like, well, that's actually what happens in the book. And so I took a moment and I was like, okay, like, all right, I guess maybe I thought for like a PG audience on Disney Plus, maybe they'd just be like, the dirt doesn't need to be explained where it goes.
Hands. He scoops it.
Like,
or
and it's
like
such a bigger issue for the movie to me, because it's like, they're in the writer's room, they're in the edit bay, like, we need to figure out where this dirt goes when Josh Gad's character eats it. It needs to be shown, detailed, and I want to singular focus on this person's backside.
Yes.
But we're not going to describe how the time freeze works, which is a central plot mechanic to two parts of this movie.
Yes.
Like, not even just the second act. Like,
somebody in the back was like, yeah, but what about the time issue? And it was like, no, but dirt. And it was
fire
like,
that man. Get him out of here.
Get him out of this office right now.
Can you imagine being like the production assistant that was like, it could just come out of his butt?
And they were like, genius.
This is an executive. Get him to the top.
Wait, it was in the book? Even better, just roll it. We're going to do 3 more takes of this.
Yeah.
You know, I just, that dislodge, the thing that gets me the most is beyond the, like, it's coming out his butt, is when he pulls that jaw down. Yes. I was like, this is Stephen King level horrifying.
Yes.
Like, there's no child that watches that and goes, yeah, that's a normal thing that happens. Like, there's no child that looks at this and goes, okay, I get it. All right, tell me more. Oh, and his butt too? This is hilarious.
This makes
sense. There's no child that accepts that.
My thing was, he says this line off before he dislocates his jaw. He's like, hope you're not squeamish. And I'm like, no, this makes me squeamish. It has nothing to do with that. This is just disgusting.
Right.
Squeamish would be like his fingers get longer. Like, oh, that's weird.
Yes.
Horrifying is he pulls his jaw to his goddamn belly button and goes, let's do it. And he does it again. He does it again when he swallows whatever. The oculus.
Acorn. It was an acorn.
The oculus, for lack of a better word. When he swallows the Sony hardware and puts it down into his gut, I was like, what the fuck is this?
Well, and I also want to point out, like, I'm not someone that is, like, scared of body horror. I watched all the Saw movies. I've seen scary movies. Like, this, though, it was just so out of place in
Yes.
welcome to the Irish fairies and magical places. And then it's like, let me show you my mouth, you know?
like some
Just-
creep. Like some you're first of all, you're a 6-foot dwarf, which is the joke of the entire movie. You're
Yeah.
Right.
He wants to be short. He wants
That
to be a
worked
short
for me,
dwarf.
too. Like,
Yeah.
that was
Yeah.
awesome.
And I was like, that's great. So I'm gonna go ahead and piggyback Doug off of Brian's thing about
Please
Josh
do.
Gad, right? My thing was the entire movie. I was annoyed the first 2 minutes with this raspy narrating that he's doing. Like I wrote the narrator's voice is the worst. A fake ass Batman that's trying too hard. Like
Yep.
he's just like blah, 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 blah. And let me tell you a story about the. And I was like, what? Like what am I? Can he stop talking, please? Because this was just the worst. But then the funniest line, which kind of made up for it, was him talking to the Leprechaun
Yep.
the director of Leprechaun, and he was like, "Look at us going back and forth, sounding like two hippos with a who need a throat lozenge." And I was like, "That's exactly what you both
That's
said.
exactly what this is.
Stop talking."
Yeah, I said Josh Gad does 4 different voices in this movie for the same
Yes.
character.
What the
Like,
hell?
he just cannot lock down what that voice should
Well,
be.
and it has to be, I have to imagine it's Kenneth Branagh being like, yeah, just, I don't know, Irish. And everyone's just like, we don't, I mean, and like, because like Judi Dench is supposed to be this like grizzled leprechaun cop, like, you know, someone you would see like, I don't know, in Lethal Weapon, whoever the, you know, the sergeant is or whoever. And it just sounds like she smokes a lot. And
Yes.
And like,
Yes.
is Kenneth Branagh doing this? Is this her? Is this like someone was like, we need you to be more grizzled? And
Yeah.
she's
And
like, I guess I'll go deeper. I guess. I don't know.
it's
I'm
like-
a leprechaun cop.
like this, like this. Nope, that's perfect. Do that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We want you to do if the Lucky Charms leprechaun had a smoking problem. Can you pull that
Yes.
off? Yep, sure can.
Funny enough, I did it last week, so
Yep,
I got
It's a funny joke I do with my friends when we go out drinking.
you.
Hey,
Jesus. Yeah,
Doug, what about you?
Okay, so my biggest beef with this movie is Artemis Fowl himself. That kid, I have a lot of questions.
we need and we need to talk about this.
So, first of all, there's a scene, and it's like a non sequitur. And this is the problem that bothers me with this movie, is this movie did this all the time. It would be establish a plot point, but it was such a throwaway line. So the butler's daughter, because like getting breakfast and come downstairs, and she says to Artemis, any luck yet? And he goes, nope. And she goes, well, you've been working for 12 hours. The fuck that 12-year-old was working for 12 hours. Like, there is no way I can't sit still for 12 hours. There's no way he was sitting. They painted this kid like he was an idiot savant. Like when he found the stupid like journal. The funniest thing is go to IMDb and click on, because they always have a goof section.
Right.
Click on the goof section for this movie. The goof section is he'd never been in the basement before, but he found the journal right away. I was like, that's not a goof. That's the plot. Like,
No, that is absolutely the plot, because it is like, by the way, so I have some Irish heritage, and that the poem thing that they talk about, May the Wit, that is like one of the most basic things like associated with Irish like people and the land. It's like, it is like the McDonald's of Irish sayings.
It's
like,
the
yeah, everybody
pumpkin
knows that
spice
one. It's
latte of
on
Irish
pea
phrases.
chains. Yeah, I mean, it's on everything, and like I have it. I have it like on a box somewhere. I like. No, but it is like I have it on a box somewhere, and I enjoy it. But like, this is Artemis Fowl. Like, it's supposed to be this Irish mythology, and you went with like the most basic Irish blessing.
Shit ever.
Yeah.
Like, that was the fail-safe, by the way. That's the fail-safe to his life's work, is the most basic Irish blessing.
Yes.
It was weird because when the movie started, I wasn't expecting Ireland. Once again, never watched the movie or anything like that. And it was like the most magical place on earth, and it was like Ireland. And then I was like, okay, I can get behind this.
Yeah,
and then everybody starts talking, and I'm like, you didn't hire one Irish person as a dialect coordinator or nothing. You just got people just coming in like, Irish, speak it. And I was like, all right. Sounds good to me.
Right.
I 100% believe that.
Heidi. And the other things that I just hated, like, were the other Irish tropes. Like when Judi Dench comes like shooting up out of the ground and she says top of the morning, I was like, fuck you. Like that was my first response. I wrote it down in my notes. I wrote top of the morning. Okay. I wrote top of the morning. Fuck this. Like I was just so mad because I was like, this is supposed to be a movie that dives like super deep into Irish backstory and tradition, and you're gonna whip out something that when your drunk friend does an impression of an Irish person, you go, "Oh, top of the morning to you!" Like that's the first thing they do.
Yeah. No, and I'm glad you acknowledge that, because the people I talked to that read the books is like, yeah, it's supposed to be like showing Ireland in this modern age, and like it's not, like we know it from previous ages, and so then you like watch this movie and it's everyone doing their worst Irish accent, and then Judi Dench having an entire 4 seconds in this movie devoted to having an Irish slogan that like isn't really
a stereotype. She's just depicting a whole stereotype out here.
Right.
Yeah.
And so so that was so I got off topic, but this kid is the worst part. He can't emote. I mean, the scene where the butler dies, I don't think he sheds a tear 5 minutes late. Like easily. Like that butler's like, this is it for me, like keep working. And he's just like, oh no.
Yes. And honestly, in that moment, not to the kid in real life or to a kid in general, because I would never, but maybe to this character, I would punch him in the face. Because it was just like, are you kidding me? You're shitting me.
Right.
This guy who took care of you is dying, and you're sitting there half-assing a tear out your face.
Even he's portrayed. He's supposed to be given off like he's the James Bond of little kids, and he is so. He's just taken that to. I mean, even James Bond will like emote when he's angry, but you can't tell the difference between angry, happy, sad, frustrated. He's just such a flat actor. Like he just was so flat, and I know it wasn't written that way. Like, I know it couldn't have been written that way.
I mean, and I think the weirdest thing about this, so doing research on the books and talking to folks, so Artemis Fowl is supposed to be this criminal mastermind, and like how he finds, spoilers, I guess, morality throughout his time in the books, and like that's what makes it compelling, because he starts as a bad dude, and none of that is in this movie. Like he's supposed to be a James Bond villain in the books, but then in this movie I don't understand what's compelling about him. I never felt attached.
He was supposed to be a bad guy?
Yes. See, this is the thing too. So usually so in the books, he's billed as this criminal mastermind. He's not a great guy, and that's what makes it compelling, is like, hey, this guy isn't great, and he's like stuck in this mystical, magical, mythical world, and he's trying to find his place in it, and the books kind of narrate and shepherd him to like finding his own morality, coming back from this like, a non-heroic place.
I'd read that.
And that's compelling. Like, a villain trying to find morality in a world full of fairies and like mythical creatures. Okay, I haven't really seen that before. But none of that is in this movie.
No. And I would love to see that with Colin Farrell. If he even a movie without the kid and allowing Colin Farrell to carry that role of I'm the criminal mastermind trying to find my road back to my son would have been better. I never got any of that in this movie.
No, none of it. And the other thing, I think it's just little things, and I'm curious to see like what other things he's been in, or if this was his first shot at it, because I mean, they're just little things. Like when he's shooting the gun, they obviously like CGI'd the gun in, but they CGI'd the gun in. He would recoil the gun before it would fire in CGI.
Oh,
he would shoot, and it went like he would pull it back, and then like it would be here, and then it would go off. And I'm like, I'm not a gun expert. That's not something on my resume.
But
I'm pretty sure it's the recoil that moves it backwards. Like, I'm pretty sure that's how that works.
And if you want some fun stuff to look at, if you want to watch this movie again, in the second act when they do the siege of the house, like nobody is trained in like how to hold a gun or like anything military. It's just like they gave a bunch of kid extras a bunch of sticks and were like, go towards the house. And They did, and that was it. Which, I don't know, maybe that was a very conscious decision, because, like, maybe fairies don't need that, and that would be really cool to explore, or whatever.
Yeah.
But, like, it just came off, like, just not really well thought out. Like,
yeah.
Because one of my things was, and I told Doug, was they had this moment where they were looking at the weapon, and they're walking down the hallway looking at the weapon. This corny scene of, like, all the things that it could do. I'm like, okay, cool, I could get behind this weapon. They then go outside and take on a couple of fairies, and they continue swapping this weapon back and forth, but never thought, I just took down a fairy that just dropped their weapon. Let me pick this one up. So both of us have one. Nobody ever said nothing about it. Yeah, they're like, shoot it. And this kid is barking directions at this grown-ass man. I don't understand it. I don't understand.
I had a lot of questions about that too. I was like, this kid has never played a Call of Duty game ever, because that's like the first thing you do is start checking people for ammo. So yeah.
And that was one of the other things too, going back to your point about just Artemis Fowl is the worst in this, is that in the books he like even says like, oh, I can't really shoot guns. So to some people that I talked to about this movie, the fact that he's like, look at me, like the fact that we're even talking about the recoil to Artemis Fowl shooting a gun, it just shows how far they were away from like the actual source material.
Missed it.
Yeah, and I mean, I kind of knew that this kid was going to be troubling from the get-go. When he was in the school and he's talking to the principal, and the principal's like, look, man, like, chill out. Like, you're obviously not challenged. Like, what can we do to make this better? And this stupid kid's like, I just don't think you're worth my time. If I said that to somebody at my school, they would be like, enjoy detention. Like, just enjoy my foot in your ass. Like, that's just how that would be. So I'm just wondering, like, what... He just pops off to adults, and we're just supposed to be like, his dad's Artemis Fowl Sr., just let it go. Like, I just don't understand how that's supposed to work. It just, I did not care for...
And the ways that they proved that his intelligence. Like, and pick apart the seat. Okay, I get what you're trying to do. Seemed unnecessary. But I get it. You're trying to prove how smart and intelligent it is. I'm going to lead that into my next point, Doug. I don't want to over-talk anybody.
No, please.
Here's my thing. Finding the underground area. Okay? The butler takes this young man to the underground area. He says, this is your father's place. And he's been collecting things over time. Apparently, this butler has never seen this place, but yet he's pulling things out of the wall.
Yeah, like just opening drawers. Yep.
He knows where everything is. He says, don't be fearful. And the first thing I say is, this is a glass full of clear liquid. What the fuck am I supposed to be afraid of? So then, the guy says, this blue-eyed black man says, look around. It's not what it looks like. And in my mind, I'm like, what exactly in the fuck am I looking at? I'm looking to. This is like the blind leading the blind. You have a man who doesn't know anything trying to tell a kid everything without knowing nothing. So what the hell are we doing here?
Right. Somebody's lying. He either has been down there before, or he generally doesn't know, so he's just like, I'm just going to act like it's okay.
Yeah, like, what in the world?
Yeah, they're not smelling jars or anything. He's just like, that whole scene top to bottom was troubling. Because then Artemis isn't, like, fondly trying to remember his dad by, like, oh, this is what he was taking notes on?
Yes.
Oh, cool. He's just picking shit up. Like, he's going to his dad's desk and just being like, it's not under there. Is it under this apple? Nope, it's not in there. It's not, he's not turning anything over. I mean, I've been in an escape room before, and arguably I did it poorly, okay? I did it really bad. But at the very least, you start flipping pages looking for a code or a symbol or something. He doesn't look for anything. He's not the greatest criminal mastermind. He's just dumb lucky. Like that's the difference between the book character and this one.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point to make, because in the books, like, and this is all from stuff that I've read, which is also my other critique of this movie, is that when you make a movie from a book, you need to present the movie as if no one has read the book, because it's in a completely different media, and that's okay. And the example I like to use is Da Vinci Code. However you feel about Dan Brown or whatever, or the Da Vinci Code, how they made that movie, it's completely accessible. You don't have to
Yes.
go back and read Da Vinci Code to understand it. And there, you could argue there's some mythical elements or like magical, however you want to describe it, things in that book. But in that movie, it doesn't. You don't need to know. Like it's already, it's in the movie, self-contained, and it's fine. And with this movie, it was like, okay, like I'm getting shoved exposition like all the time for me to even focus on any characters. So I wanted to check out the books, which like congrats Disney, but I shouldn't have to like
for
look
all
at
the
a
wrong
book.
reasons though.
Right, like I don't understand. Why does he keep calling himself a criminal mastermind? Like he just wants his dad back. Like none of that motivation was there. Like I don't understand why.
Also, you saw. Also, you self-righteous prick. Not you, Brian, but the kid. But like you solved one. Mystery. And that was my other thing. My other critique with this is because I feel like we could just dig at this thing all day.
Yeah.
But this thing is, they really made it seem like he had this thing plotted out, like from beginning to end, zero mistakes, and predicted everything that would happen. And so basically, it's us watching this kid go, it's exactly as I
told you. Called it.
Yeah.
Called it.
The worst.
And those type of kids are like you said, the worst. And Brian, I think to your point is, it's like when you do a book, I mean, there are probably, let's take probably the most successful book franchise in Harry Potter for just a minute.
Sure.
Right?
Let's do it.
There are probably kids who had entry points to the Harry Potter book via the movie because they did such a good job presenting that source material as if nobody knew it, that they could watch Sorcerer's Stone and go, oh, this is really cool. I love this movie. That's when mom and dad are like, fuck yeah, gotcha. Hey, guess what? It's a book. You should read it. You know what I mean? Like, and they go and read it. There was nothing about this that made me go check the source material. The only reason why I did is I want to see how far off it is, and that's kind of the wrong reason to build a franchise. Yeah,
and I think you described it perfectly because the books sound really compelling, and it feels like there were 3 movies made, and like half of one got out, and this is the half of the one that got out because clearly they had a different vision for this. Just based on the first trailer, it looks like Dom and Artemis they like go out and do stuff, and they meet a fairy and some really cool stuff, but none of that makes it into the movie, and it just I don't know if an executive got cold feet because maybe like it got really out there, or if Kenneth Branagh was like, oh, this is so far away from me, I just need to dial it back to its most basic thing, so I have a comprehensible movie.
This stinks of test audience rewrite.
Yes.
Like this has the stench of there was a test audience that couldn't focus on some of the exposition, so they cut it out. Like they showed it to a group of 14-year-olds to see who could buy into it, and the 14-year-olds were like, this isn't exciting. So they cut out all the boring exposition, like plot development stuff, and they said, let's give you a movie that keeps you interested for 93 minutes.
They definitely Percy Jackson this movie.
Yes, they absolutely did that. Yep, absolutely.
That movie had so much. That franchise has so much potential.
Yes,
and then they just poo-pooed all over it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
It was bad. It was
deep size.
So before we get too much more on the other things on what we didn't like, let's transition and maybe put ourselves in the director's chair. So just one thing, Brian, what do you think if you were to do this movie? If somebody called you and said, "Hey, we want you to direct the remake of Artemis Fowl," what would you do differently? What's maybe a change you'd make to it?
So I'm going to cheat a little bit and do 2 things because one thing really bothered me. So I'm going to like transition this. So in the beginning of the movie, they do the establishing shot of the mansion, and they do like in the bottom left-hand corner, they do like text. It's the only time text is on screen. And it annoyed me that it was in white, and then it goes over a white beach, so you can't read it. So first thing, we're gonna change that. We're gonna get rid of it because we already talk about Ireland so much in the movie that I'm gonna trust my audience, and I trust you will understand this is in Ireland.
Yes.
Okay, fair.
So that's my micro thing. I think larger. I think. I think for me, the team, getting the team together faster, getting those characters together, in a more efficient way, I think is probably what the main change I would make to this. There's a lot, but if I only had a limited amount of time, I would try to get those characters together, because that's honestly when I kind of got interested. I like seeing a fairy, a dwarf, a human, and Dom and his kid like all be like, that's a troll. And we all got to figure this out. Like I wasn't the biggest fan of that action sequence, but getting them together and having them play off of each other to really dig into those differences of them as characters, but also seeing them come up with solutions together, because I think that's really entertaining. And I think that is kind of one of the cruxes of this movie is like, how do these two worlds work together? And I feel like there's some really cool answers in there that we could have mined or like set up, and I think it would have been really enjoyable. I think Holly was the fairy. Like the actress who played her, and I'm totally blanking on her name, she did great. I loved her.
Spot on.
And I feel like she could have helped center that narrative and talking about, you know, and everything like that. So that's where I'll stop, is just getting the group together faster, because we want to see them work together.
Yep, for sure. Completely agree. Marcus, director's chair, what do you do?
For my thing, I'm recasting. I'm recasting the lead, and I'm also going to recast the butler. I get that you want this tough guy. For an audience sake, I would absolutely go with Samuel Jackson. I would bring Samuel Jackson in as the butler to kind of bring in a different audience. Because Sammy J will do anything.
That's a very good point.
Yes.
He will do anything. So I would bring him in as the butler. I think with Bryan's approach to redirecting the team, I wouldn't have to do that, right? So if he does that and I recast the lead character, somebody who I felt would have been great in this film, and I don't know how old he is now, but you mentioned Endgame, Bryan. I really love that kid, that young man.
Oh, Ender's Game?
In Ender's Game, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, you're good.
Game. Because I know that I only know this because when Spider-Man was coming out and being redone, he was one of the people supposed to play Spider-Man moving forward. So I would have recasted him in the role because he can emote. He can emote.
Yep.
And I feel like that recasting your lead would fix a lot of the issues. And recasting the two main characters, the butler and him, I feel like it will do it justice.
Yep. So I'm kind of doing a little bit to piggyback off of Marcus, and I actually have a different lead that I would cast. I would cast the kid who played Billy Barnes in Shazam.
Ah, good choice.
And I would go a completely different route with it, and I would actually lean into the fact that a 12-year-old is navigating a fantasy world and let him be a little bit snarky about it, and let him be like oh shit, is that a fairy? Let's see your wings. Like that type of and really kind of play into the fantasy element of it. The other thing that I would do is I would spend some more time letting us as an audience get familiar with some of the rules associated with the world. Like one of the things that Bryan talks about, the scene where Mo Diggums, I just wanted to say it again, where Mulch... It's Mo. I can't. It's Mo.
It is Mo. It's Mo Diggums
it's Mo
now.
From now. It's Mo Diggums from now on. But when he shows up and they're like, "We need you. We'll knock 50 years off your sentence," or whatever it was. If you can do this, there was a very real fantasy rule why they couldn't go in, and they keep referencing. It's like, well, we have to follow the rules. That's why we can't go into the house.
Yes.
Yeah, well, and just to clarify really quick, so it's the idea that fairies can't go in anywhere unless they're invited. I think that is the thing, right? Okay.
Yeah, and that's my issue with it, is if you're going to establish a rule like that, so much so that it affects the major plot. Like, Mulch wasn't involved in this. Mo, excuse me, wasn't involved in this caper until the rule was established.
Yes.
He was the only reason why he was brought into that space.
Yeah.
If you're going to establish that kind of rule, we need to know what those rules are.
Yes.
So you need to do some of that world building. And if that means that we don't get to some of the other stuff, like you don't showcase the troll, and maybe you don't invest as much in that, or I don't know what you cut, but if we need to get more pull out of that, I would much rather put that in there. Yeah. I also think we need some sort of exposition about why the villain is a villain. A mysterious hooded figure in a sewer system is not compelling enough for me to be worried about it.
and fun fact about that. So talking to people about that and looking this up, that villain doesn't show up until like book 2 or 3 because Artemis is supposed to be the main antagonist.
Yeah.
So it's just they got in their way so much with this.
And
They put
that
3 books in
damn
one. Yep.
unnecessary damn captain that she broke out of prison. His role was so useless.
What? Yeah. Yeah.
So useless the entire movie. You didn't do shit.
Right. He was there to only make you worried that the Federation or whatever's name it was, the council was going to come down on Judi Dench. She's in the middle of a goddamn battle. They're not going to show up and be like, "Hey, we know you're in the middle of something, but you got to get out of here."
Right.
Like,
Right.
We're done with you. So yeah, I would just spend some more time doing the world building, and then maybe your stinger at the end is she breaks out of prison, and that's your lead into book and movie 2.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep, that would be my strategy with it.
Doug, you're telling me you wouldn't wait until minute 20 or 21 to even introduce a fairy world? Because I definitely paused my movie because it was so jarring that I was like, oh, wait, what? We're going to do this now? Right now?
No.
Okay, great.
I mean, I can actually think of the scene in my head about how you transition it, which is like Colin Farrell's sitting down with Artemis, and he's basically saying, from books I've read and research I've done, these are some of the ways in which I feel like the fairy world would look. And Artemis and you do close-up shots of the paper and how it's drawn out, and there's detail. And as you kind of pan across to the paper, that's when you transition into the fairy world of Colin Farrell is correct. So Artemis's understanding of this is also correct. So I think that's the strategy with it. It's just like you said, there were jawing cuts and quick decisions across this because they were jamming 2 to 3 books into 93 minutes.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right. So the big question is I think how do you rate it? Brian, we use a 1 to 5 scale. So how do you rate it? And the second question is, do you recommend people see it? We usually go when we see movies in person is it worth the price of admission?
All right. So I'm going to say that this is like the definition of like a Sunday afternoon movie that you need to like, maybe you have kids and they just want to look at something different. This is good. Those are the people that will probably watch this, like 2 out of 5. Yeah. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen. I've seen a lot of bad movies. Yeah. This was at least coherent at points, and it has Josh Gad. He's charming.
Yeah.
And is it worth the price of admission? That's weird because of the world we live in, I guess.
True.
I'll say, is it worth a Disney Plus subscription? No. Many things are, but this is not one of them.
There we go. Hey, let's phrase it like this. With AMC, and they backtrack on this. So with AMC, it was like no mask. We're not gonna reinforce mask. If you had to pay $13 and not wear a mask in a COVID world, would you go see this movie in a theater?
I'm gonna say no. I would not see this movie in a theater.
Yeah.
If I would see it in a theater, it would be the second movie that I walked out of, because it's just that bad. So I kind of agree, Marcus, with Brian's assessment. Maybe throw it on the background for kids with something exciting to watch, something that has a lot of energy and a lot of color to it to keep them tuned in, because it's just 93 minutes, so it's not going to rot their brain too much, I guess. Not that happens, but I definitely, it would be sort of like I get Disney Plus for like The Mandalorian or some of the other like really cool stuff that's on there, and then on a whim, I'm clicking on things being like, oh, this is new and released this year, and I sit through it just to be like, oh, okay.
For me, I'm going to rate it. I'm going to give it a 2 out of 5. I think a 2 out of 5 is a good number. It's not the worst thing I've seen. Just everything that Brian and Doug said already. For me, is it worth the price of admission? Here in Vermillion, South Dakota, we have a wonderful movie theater, the Vermillion Theater downtown.
Yeah, Kyle Twin.
Oh, wow.
Kyle Twin. Shout out to the Kyle Twin. Support your local theaters. There, I get a discounted price of $8 a ticket because I am a student. And I still wouldn't pay that shit.
I thought this was going somewhere else, and that was wonderful.
Not for this one. I'm sorry, I can't do it. So no, it's not really worth the price of admission. If this was on Netflix and I didn't have to pay like a Disney Plus subscription, and I have maybe an ex-girlfriend's old Netflix profile, I'd watch it. So you got me there, Artemis. But
all right.
Hell no.
Yeah.
They're gonna put that on the poster. That's
they're gonna
like
be
the
like-
winning quote. Marcus from the Movies in Black and White podcast.
Yeah, I completely agree. Any final thoughts that we didn't talk about that are worth mentioning? Anything like that?
I think for me, and we don't have to dive into it. I still don't understand how the time stop works, and it's never explained, and it feels like it doesn't matter because some people stop and some people don't, and it's never explained, and it bothered me. But it's clearly nobody cares. Like so, I don't know. That's weird. And it's bizarre. That's all.
Yeah. The other thing that I think is weird, the other thing that we didn't really talk about that the movie doesn't explain is when the time stop ends, it is like Asgardian Rainbow Bridge people just the fuck out of there for no reason that like we just don't understand. Like it just there's no clear they're like, oh, avoid the bubbles, and it's like I don't
What does that mean? What?
Right, what does that mean? I don't
The worst on the job training I've ever seen.
Right.
And they
Can
had
you
like
imagine the first fairy that showed up for training at that exact moment that was like, oh, what's going on? Yeah, it's a time stop just at the end, avoid the bubbles. I'm sorry, what? Like, why?
I'll say three things, and I'm not going to dive into them.
Okay.
And I want people to go watch it for yourselves. That's always
Yes.
the thing with films of Black and White.
seriously.
Yep.
We can give it to you like we give it to you, but you still have to go experience it on your own. But
Yes,
while you're
agreed.
watching it, experience these things. The horse guy, what the fuck? The taking your "Can I trust you?" takes off his glasses. What the fuck? You don't even know this person. And just the blue-eyed black man. I just can't stress that enough. I can't stress it enough. I'm sorry. They never explain why he had the blue eyes and that his niece does not have the blue eyes. So
that was a choice.
So
He got those at Lens Crafters. He was like on board
what
for
the
him.
hell?
I want to know somebody that read the book. I want to know their opinion on that. Because, like, I had no idea what to do with it. And I was just like, okay, like, you're the bodyguard. Let's go. I don't know. Like, I want to talk to somebody that read the book and be like, is this what you got? Is this how you saw this go down?
Yep.
And Josh tried his best with that little butler. Don't call him the butler or he'll break you in half. And I was like, I'm not intimidated by you one bit.
Not at all. And it's the eyes that did it. The last thing I have for final thoughts, this is the very last thing. There was one moment, and we don't have to talk about it, but Artemis is talking to Holly in the cage, and he shuts the flap on talking to her. First off, it's a cage.
Why
He
the fuck
shuts
was it?
the flap like this. And I turned to Brittany and I said, that is the equivalent of slamming a screen door. It does nothing. Like,
Because he slams it and it goes like this. And she does this. So,
I was like, that is the oddest moment to try to express your anger. Like, gotcha. And she's like, nope. Like, I just didn't. It was just one of those things. I was like, I don't understand why he did. They're odd choices all around. Well, good. Well, Bryan, this was a lot of fun. So we are very, very happy that you decided to join us. Yeah, shout out.
Hey, look at that.
Yeah. So, So anything that you want to tell people about before we do our official sign off? Any words of wisdom to folks?
The only thing that I can promote, my wife runs a lifestyle blog called The Love Nerds. And so you can head there for any type of recipes, any type of things that are geek chic. She also does different reviews and promotions for various products, whether it's food or anything else. You can check out the blog. It's thelovenerds.com.
Awesome. Yeah, super cool. Yeah,
that
I
sounds
love
really
this
good.
stuff.
I'm going to go look at that.
And if you know anybody who's looking to plan a trip to Disney, Maggie's your go-to. Like, she knows that shit, like, forwards and backwards. So she also gives great advice on that end, too. So,
she does.
Well, cool. I only have one thing I want to say is if everybody could go to Spotify, and it's not about us, if everybody could go to Spotify and listen to Marcus's new track, Random, that dropped on there earlier, right? Like, was that last week that dropped?
Maybe about 2 weeks ago now. 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, that shit slaps. I loved it. Like, I listened to it. I listened to that on the way down to the gym. I think it was Monday morning, and I
Uh-huh.
was like, "This is really, really good." I mean, all the stuff that you've done has been good, but I mean, it was really good. I liked it, so I
Oh.
wanted to give a shout out, encourage everybody to go listen to that.
Oh man.
While you're over there,
Mhm.
you maybe navigate to Films in Black and White, rate us, subscribe, that type of shit. Give us 5 stars. And we're also, we're available everywhere you get your podcasts.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't have anything else to promote. That was pretty dope that Doug said that. Go listen to whatever else you find. Just go to Spotify, put my name in, and go to all podcasts, go to all music, whatever is there. Doug and I are going to have some merch coming out here soon. We're going to get you some stickers.
A great reminder for everybody.
And I thought a perfect segue to end off our episode as we usually do, Doug. So go ahead and take it away.
Just wash your ass. Just wash it. It's hot. It's summer.
Your ass.
Give it a clean.
Wash it.
I mean, it doesn't have to be anything gratuitous. You don't have to get up in it, but just give it a scrub.
Think about it. Just a swipe will do. A swipe a day will keep the crust away from your ass. and listen, it was 95 degrees today. Okay, I'm a big guy. I got rolls. I got stuff going on.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But I can always make time to wash my ass.
It takes like 5 minutes. Okay,
I wasn't expecting to do anything with hygiene at the end of this, but hygiene's important. Yeah, sure.
It is. As always, go find us wherever you get your podcasts. Rate, subscribe, recommend to your friends. Big shout out to the people in Ireland and UK and Germany, the 4 to 10% of listeners who are international. We crossing oceans, baby. So I apologize to everybody for the baby. But yeah, rate us, subscribe us, recommend us to your friends, and we will catch you all next week.
Damn right.